What a difference a month can make. In February, many Canadians joined Shutdown Canada protests and blockades in solidarity with Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs. A month later, the streets in many Canadian cities are empty, and Canadians are supporting a different kind of shutdown to prevent the spread of the coronavirus or COVID-19. But while many Canadians are staying home and practicing physical distancing to flatten the curve, itself an act of solidarity with healthcare workers and vulnerable members of the population, now is not the time to turn inwards. We can't afford to ignore the world outside of our own homes. Neither should practicing social distancing mean silencing our calls for social justice. We must remain vigilant in these tumultuous times. As Naomi Klein argues in her best-selling book, The Shock Doctrine, national emergencies often serve as catalysts for predatory economic practices known as disaster capitalism. In moments of profound shock and crisis, like natural disasters, wars, and global pandemics such as COVID-19, the rich and powerful can exploit the public's disorientation or distraction and push forward ideas, policies, and practices that prioritize profit over people. The same holds true for colonialism. Around the world, moments of crisis are also used to continue colonialism under cover of disaster, to use Klein's phraseology. Here in Canada, we are seeing many examples of how capitalist accumulation by colonial dispossession are continuing amidst the current pandemic. Although Shutdown Canada actions have now ceased, the Wet'suwet'en struggle to assert their sovereignty and prevent Coastal GasLink's construction of a pipeline through their unceded territory continues. In fact, while most Canadians have been preoccupied with news of the rapid spread of COVID-19, Coastal GasLink, with support from the RCMP, has resumed its work in Wet'suwet'en territory, much to the dismay of hereditary chiefs. Moreover, with a drop in oil and gas prices, KKR, an American private equity firm with a record of putting profits over employees, people, and the environment, has plans to purchase 65% of the Coastal GasLink pipeline with Alberta Investment Management Corp. It is clear that billionaire oil and gas CEOs see the COVID-19 crisis as an opportunity to push through their resource development plans that not only put Indigenous communities at risk of infection with the continuation of man camps in Indigenous territories, but also guarantee environmental degradation. In Alberta, the United Conservative Party is using the corona crisis and the drop in oil prices to backtrack on some of its key promises. In late February, the UCP introduced a budget complete with plans to close 20 parks and recreational sites and turn over another 164 to private management. The government stressed, though, that it would not be selling off any Crown land and promised that it would instead enter into negotiations with municipalities and local First Nations in the province to transfer land for local management. The past couple of weeks, however, the UCP announced that it had changed its mind and is now putting a 65-hectare grassland near Tabor in the Treaty 7 region up for auction with a starting bid of almost $500,000. Jason Kenney, the Premier, also recently announced that the Alberta government is investing over $1 billion in the Keystone XL pipeline project that will jeopardize many Indigenous communities in the U.S. along the proposed route. This kind of disaster dispossession fits the mold of the shock doctrine, a right-wing government using a crisis to push through controversial ideas that prioritize private profit. Though capitalists and colonial politicians often use emergencies to advance exploitative agendas, Klein argues that crises can also catalyze popular resistance. Catastrophes such as the current global pandemic bring our priorities into clearer focus and can open up new opportunities to develop wider relations of compassion, reciprocity, and solidarity. Crises also make space for new ideas that we can use to radically transform society and ensure that we put people before profit. Why bail out oil and gas companies who contribute to the climate crisis and ignore Indigenous rights when we can instead invest in healthcare, education, affordable housing, and renewable energy? Well, we're all doing our best to adapt to the changing circumstances of the COVID-19 crisis. We must ensure that our isolation does not lead to collective complacency. Now is the time to double down on our demands for justice and to distance ourselves from capitalism and colonialism.